Sandhan, all Gujarat integrated classroom.
સેટેલાઇટના માધ્યમથી જોડતી કડી એટલે સંધાન.
Good morning and a very warm welcome to all the students of English. This is Dr. Kavita Patel on behalf of Sandhan, welcoming all the students of English to this special English lecture series. Today, I am going to teach you compulsory English, that is general English, in this semester pattern, where I'll be teaching 2 lessons from semester 4 prescribed in the text, which you can see on your screens. Macmillan College Prose, lesson number 8, Professions for Women, authored by Virginia Woolf. You can see the text on one side as well as the pic of the author Virginia Woolf to make it more precise for the compulsory students, as she is a very well-known literary writer. When it comes to compulsory teaching, it is very much required that at the end of the lesson, the students learn certain vocabulary and that enhance their knowledge of English. Now, this is the writer, and you are going to know something about Virginia Woolf as well as her views about women, as the very title of your lesson is Professions for Women. Just look at your screens. Virginia Woolf, a novelist, a biographer, critic and theorist, an autobiographer, diarist as well as a publisher. This is the literary background of the author, and the other aspect of Virginia Woolf, which is a must to know before we proceed to our lesson, is that she prepared the ground for the second wave feminism, that is, which started in 1960s in US, which brought a change it was a movement for cultural changes, that is, changes in habits of thinking and mental space. And this is what is going to be the base of the talk which we are going to have on this particular lesson's Professions for Women. Let's move on further. Now, how come a compulsory text meant for semester 4 students has a lesson, something related to women as well as in general humanity? I don't say marginalized people, but rather it is more about human race and the status of women in that. Now, this is what you must very well know first before we begin anything, that this was not written, rather it was in a form of a speech. Professions for Women is an abbreviated version of the speech Virginia Woolf delivered before a branch of the National Society for Women's Service League on January 21st, 1931. Later on, it was published in a book titled The Death of the Moth and Other Essays. So, you can, if you just look into your text, you will realize that it is not in the traditional manner. The lesson is not in a form of a prose writing which looks like a narrative story or anything like that. Rather, it is in a new format, that is, it is in points. You have total 7 points, and after reading all those 7, you see that things are connected as well as they are in a scattered pieces. So this was a speech delivered before a live audience, and responding to them, having a talk to them, she started then writing this in the form of a script, and then it turned into an essay, and that is how you are here to read it, and compulsory students are bound to read the whole text. So there has to be a practical exercise where you read each and every line of all these 7 points to understand how after one and another things were connected. Let's move on to the next one, and that is, I have taken up from the text, that is the extract from the text. I can't read the whole text, but this is how the essay begins. When she is invited for a talk, she says, I quote, "My profession is literature, and in that profession there are fewer experiences for women than in any other, with the exception of the stage, fewer, or the road was cut many years ago by," she's naming few writers, women writers, whom she in a way succeeds, that is, these were the writers who wrote before her and made a way for her, "many famous women and many more unknown and forgotten have been before me, making the path smooth and regulating my steps." Now here we need to wait for a second and think about that why she is giving a sort of a historical map of writers before her. Now the only reason why she is doing this might be to show that she is not the first person to come on this scale of writing as a woman. You have to always continuously keep in mind the title of the that is the lesson. I won't say it a story actually, because it is not at all in a narrative pattern. It's rather a talk. So we would always say that these are her views in general about herself. Because she was such a renowned women writer, she was asked to talk about her profession, and that is how she starts, that there are very fewer experiences for women, right? And then she's talking about other women writers who succeeded as writers, had great name during their time, and then she talks about herself, that how she has followed the footsteps of the writers whom she has named. Let's go on to the next slide just to have you a bit acquainted. I'm just trying to make you acquainted with the names of the writers she mentioned over there. You can see on your screens George Eliot, Jane Austen, Harriet, Ephra Behn and Fanny, and these are the writers she has named whom she has kept as an ideal, not following in that sense, but at least in a chain of women writers where she in a way successes these writers, and how she is not new in writing, and that is the point what she wants to talk about. And let's move on further to the later part of the text. Again, I'm quoting from the text some changes. I have left few lines over there, and here she's trying to talk about why a writer, why a woman should opt for a career in writing, why she should go for creative writing, that is in literature, and not in any other thing. Now see what logic or what point of view she has. I read, "Thus, when I came to write, there were very few material obstacles in my way. Writing was a reputable and harmless occupation. The family peace was not broken by the scratching of a pen. No demand was made upon the family purse. The cheapness of writing paper is, of course, the reason why women have succeeded as writers before they have succeeded in other professions." Now, that is one reason she says that it is very meager if a woman opts for creative writing, because there are not too many material obstacles. Material obstacles have many connotations, like the family might not support somebody, there are economical issues, but here in Virginia Woolf's state, she belonged to a very reputed and a very well off to do family, so she need not had any problems. That's why she says that materialistic or material obstacles didn't harm her from, that is, overcoming rather or being a writer. I'll just read out few lines from the text which I have not put here. She says, I quote, "But to tell you my story, it is a simple one. You have only got to figure to yourself a girl in a bedroom with a pen in her hand. She had only to move that pen from left to right from 10 o'clock to 1. Now this is what she says she was in a state when she started writing. And she just needed a space and a pen and a paper and some sort of a corner in her house to relax and think about and then come out with her work. And that is how she started her career. She wrote articles, then she sent them to magazines. Then she was appointed for a job, and that is how she started her career. So that is one reason she says that it is very simple enough for me, and that is how she suggests that why a woman should become a writer, because there are less material obstacles. But here again we have to remember that there are many other obstacles which a woman faces when it comes to public life, that is coming into the limelight and walking very next to a man. Now what sort of obstacles Virginia Woolf means when she says not materialistic yet obstacles? Later on we are just going to talk about that also. Let's talk about the obstacles. As I mentioned, off and on she is putting this line that very few material obstacles in my way. When she was asked questions during the talk, this was what she was telling, that she had very less, but still she had two very major obstacles to face. And how she came out of that, or how she faced them, how she fought and then again continued, and that is what we are going to talk about, the whole process of her becoming a true writer in the real sense. You can just see on your screens, I am talking about the two obstacles which she mentioned. That is, one is battle with a certain phantom, the angel in the house. And the another one she says is telling the truth about her own experience as a body. Now we need not get into the theory part of the thing, because we are talking about a feminist. So obviously she has certain maxims where she would keep women at the center and talk about the conflicts, rather internal conflicts of a woman. Or we just have to keep two things in mind, that when we talk about a writer, it is very important to understand the mental makeup of the writer when it comes to their gender. That is, if a writer is a man and if a writer is a woman, it makes lot of difference, and there are lots of theories. We need not get into that, but at the prime phase, the most important thing to remember is that whenever a creative writer writes, the gender plays a very important role. And here in Virginia Woolf's case, this is what she wants to bottom line talk about, is she wants to put it very clear that she was writing. She started her career. She started reviewing books. She started writing articles. But every time there was a certain phantom which haunted her. And that is, she has taken the title The Angel in the House from a poem which was published during that time by a male writer. We'll be just having a look at that also. And this is how she has used the metaphor of angel throughout this talk to express her concern for women who have dual life, rather not responsibilities, but in a very straight manner, women live two lives. And this is what she says, that even she was living two lives, and how she herself killed this angel of herself, and then how she proceeded further. Let's move on. This is what she talks about. I think it's visible a bit. And this is the figure of an angel with a wings Excuse me. You can just look on your screens over there that this is a imaginative sort of an angel she talks about for us. She herself is in that state, but for us, she says that this angel is like this, living in a house, and she wants to liberate herself from this angel. Now, these are in a very metaphorical way. We are talking in a very metaphorical way where we say, who is she? So here I am not talking about one or two, I am talking about so many women. Who are they? What are they? When we talk about dual personality, living, not dual personality in that sense, that is what you understand, that living something for oneself and being something. No, here that is a woman has a dual responsibility, and in that she plays two roles. And that one role of angel hampers the growth of a writer. And that is what is going to be the concluding, in a way, hypothesis of this lesson, where we will come to a conclusion that what are the requirements of a writer if she is a woman, and what are the problems a woman writer faces because she is a woman. And this is in continuation, or rather to make it very clear, that when we talk about an angel, normally an angel is more or less the messenger of God, but here the angel is a designed sort of a woman, and who has to work according to the person who has designed this woman. And that's how I understand it. And these are just some figures where you can just try to understand that what this angel means for Virginia Woolf. Let's continue further. As I said, who is she? According to Virginia Woolf, this angel for her is a phantom. At the same time, she is a woman. At the same time, she is very ideal. And at the same time, she is very stereotype. Now see, I was just talking about dual, that is two things at a time. Here we have too many things. If we just put them jumble up, that how a woman in a way live, if she has to be a writer and a ordinary woman. Now these are the points which Virginia Woolf is going to talk in detail about further. Now from where has she taken this phrase, the angel in the house? That is more or less a title of a poem written by Coventry Patmore. Next slide, you can see the pic of the poem as well as the writer of the poem, where he sings praises about a woman only because that is the feminine qualities of a woman are praised, where she is a very docile and a very homely sort of a woman, where she has certain norms set and she has to follow those norms, and then only she is acceptable in a society where patriarchy rules. Now again, we have to keep one more thing in our mind, is that we are talking about something which prevailed during the Victorian age. That is, we are talking about a historical phase at the same time. It's not comparing the 21st century with that phase, but whenever we try to understand a author or a text or anything, we need to keep in mind the historical background, the historical perspectives again at the same time, and that is just to make you understand what this angel in the house meant. The angel in the house meant a woman who takes care of everything in the house, and she has nothing to do outside the house. That is how certain conclusions might come, especially from tender minds like students like you. The very understanding of angel in the house makes it very restrained, that okay, we are talking about a woman in a house, but now here is a woman who is out of the house. Rather, she is in the field of profession. Now how she handles her being an angel in the house and again a professional woman. Let's move on further. Again a quote from the text. Now this is the most important thing which makes very clear what I was talking earlier. I quote, "And when I was writing this review, I discovered that if I were going to review books, I should need to do battle with a certain phantom. And the phantom was a woman. And I came to know her better. I called her after the heroine of a famous poem, The Angel in the House." Now, this is what she's talking about her career. When she started writing, she was again offered the task of reviewing books. And especially this point is to be noted that when she was given the task of reviewing books, the books were written by male authors. That is, the writers were male. And again, when she started reviewing, this one thing she off and on felt was that she had to constantly switch on, and that is again switch on from this to that. That is the dual side of a woman. That is her being a woman according to the patriarchal setup, and again her being a reviewer, but again a reviewer, a woman reviewer. So these two things got clashed, and that is how she introduced this metaphor, angel in the house. I quote again from the text. "It was she who used to come between me and my paper when I was writing reviews." This is what I said. "It was she who bothered me and wasted my time, and so tormented me that at last I killed her. You who come of a younger and happier generation may not have heard of her. You may not know what I mean by the angel in the house. I will describe her as shortly as I can." Unquote. And this is what she says, that after a struggle, after an intense conflict, she had to kill that angel, and then only she could see herself as a true writer, or rather we can say then only the true writer was born, and she started her career as a writer. Now again, who was she really? Now here we are talking about the angel. She means the angel over here. I quote from the text. This is going to be the most important paragraph from the text, which is to be read minutely, and you need to understand each and every term of this, because whenever we teach a text, for example a story or a lesson which runs in 4 or 5 pages, the expected thing is at the end you should be in a position to, in a way, rather not summarize, I won't say summarize, but at least analyze how things were connected. It's very important to write answers in the exams, but at the same time you are there to understand the concepts which are prescribed for you at this certain level, because all the prescribed facts are going to, in a way, enhance your understanding. And as I said in the very beginning, we are not talking about any marginalized section of the society. We are not talking about women's equality, or we are not talking about feminism. I just want to keep it very clear, very bare fact that we are here to understand the mental makeup of a writer. And especially when the writer is a woman writer, what is the process or what is the channel which in a way develops her writing, or rather which adds to her writing, because there are so many socio-political factors involved whenever a woman stands up and says that I am a writer. Now that is what we are talking about. I just want to make very clear, we are not talking about feminism, because whenever Virginia Woolf is mentioned, there is always a phrase attached that she was a feminist, but I rather would say that she was a female writer. Instead of saying her a feminist, I would definitely call her a female writer. And we are discussing, when we talk about professions for women, how a woman writer reached such a stage and what were her experiences. And again, as I said, it was a talk. So she has lots of things to tell audience, and the audience comprises of women. So here is somebody who is trying to instigate rather a positive energy, not a negative one, and she is in a way pouring out her views of what she feels, and that is how she defines this angel. I quote from the text. Who is this angel? Who was this angel? She was intensely sympathetic. She was immensely charming. She was utterly unselfish. She excelled in the difficult arts of family life. She sacrificed herself daily. If there was chicken, she took the leg. If there was a draught, she sat in it. In short, she was so constituted that she never had a mind or a wish of her own, but preferred to sympathize always with the minds and wishes of others. Her purity was supposed to be her chief beauty. Unquote. Now, this is what the angel in the house meant according to the poem. That is the poem which sang the praises of a woman, actually talked about the attributes of women in this manner, that how docile, how convincing, how very humble a woman has to be, and she is the one who has all the responsibilities, whether it comes to, that is, the moral side of her personality or the physical side of it. She had a very important, or rather a key role, and that is how there were praises, that is, the poem sang songs rather of the praises in terms of a woman who can be everything what all she was expected to be. So here you have to just ponder on this thought, that when the definition of a woman is such, and if a person like such gets into a professional world, what are the consequences the woman has to face? First of all, you have to beforehand think about that what are the consequences a woman of this stature faces if she enters into a professional world where she has to compete with the other side, that is, compete with men. When there is a designed sort of a life designed by patriarchy, rather men, that a woman has to be like this, and if she goes out and says that I am a writer and not an angel, what are the consequences that is she has to face? Now let's come to this angel definition furthermore to make it very clear, because you will be having as a fact, it's very important to keep always in mind the exam point of view, that what are the important things you could be asked. Now this angel in the house is going to be the most important sort of point, rather I would say it an important short note which every student has to prepare beforehand, because that gives the gist of the whole lesson. If you understand this, then there is not much required to connect things, even if they are in bits. I'll just read out what this angel in general meant. It meant as of a norm, and every house has this angel. There is no house where there is not as the defined angel, as we saw in the earlier slide, that a sympathetic woman, a unselfish woman doing everything expected. So every house has such angel. Now, what is the task for a professional woman? If an angel turns into a professional woman, the first thing that she has to do is she has to kill the phantom, and that is the angel. It's very hard to kill. Excuse me. It's very hard to kill such an angel. First of all, as we talk about Virginia's further essay, we will read that it's very difficult even for people. As you can see, I have mentioned, people are hardly aware of the existence, the presence of phantoms. I am not talking about men here. I am talking about women themselves. They themselves don't at times know that in what sort of cycle they are like living their lives, because this phantom is very invisible. It is you have to explore, you have to understand the potentialities of your own conduct and self. Then only you can in a way differentiate between the phantom and the real one. There are many women who erase themselves, that is, they are not known because they themselves don't try themselves, that is, they don't try to come. And because again we are not blaming in general, we are not talking about all women, we are talking about those who are sacrificed themselves for their families, and then they have just one particular inbuilt sort of a world in which they live. Now when it comes to cross that line, when it comes to going out of the box and doing, now that becomes a very challenging thing. And then what is to be done can kill the autonomy, independence of a writer, and has fictitious nature. We are talking about the angel. If a writer keeps the angel as well as starts to write, it kills the autonomy. You cannot be in a way impartial, you are going to be partial, and that is how the writer is not working in its full swing, and that what all is done is very fictitious. It's for the sake of doing, or rather it's for the sake of showing that okay fine, this is what I write, but again deep down there are certain compromises made, and that is how the autonomous writer or the real writer is not born. Let's move on to the next one. There are many doubts, again questions. How can a writer write if she doesn't have her own thoughts? Now this is what Virginia Woolf questions the women writers, that when you write, or rather when you review any literature by some male writer, how are you going to review it if you don't have your own thoughts? If you don't have your own voice, how are you going to express what you feel or what you understand? Because you are a different personality, your views matter, and if that is not done, how are you going to in a way do justice to what you are working? And that is what I was talking. How can a writer write if she doesn't have her own thoughts? Now there is a pic for you, which in a way it is a very very justifying one, where there is a woman, but you can see on the forehead, you can see the picture of a man over there. She is not a complete writer. She is a writer, but again she thinks like a man. Why? Now that has a very important point to support it, and that is because we live in a setup, in a patriarchal setup, where we have to abide. That is the not exactly day-to-day rules, but rather you follow certain things, and in doing that, a creative woman, she cannot come out completely or totally, she cannot do justice to her work if she doesn't bring out her own thoughts. And that is what for which Virginia Woolf again has a very critical remark. I can read out from the text where she talks about women who in spite of having the potential are not trying to express them, and that is what it is in that connection that we are talking. And you cannot review even a novel without having a mind of your own, and that is what supports what I said, that unless you are a complete self, it is difficult to give your own points. Rather you would follow a chain, or rather you would follow something which is coming since years, and you base your judgments on that. But Virginia, as I said in the very first few slides, that there are two obstacles that a woman has to come over if she is into writing field, and the one is to kill the angel, and the second one is to express her views as a woman. That is very important. How she feels about being a woman, that has to be the base for any sort of a work. Let's move on further. Again from the text I am reading. These then were two very genuine experiences of my own. And now she is going about herself, how she killed the angel, or what she bases her, on what views she bases her views. These then were two very genuine experiences of my own. These were two of the adventures of my professional life. The first, killing the angel in the house, I think I solved. That is what she says, because she then was a renowned novelist. We just read in our first slide. What was she? She was a novelist, she was a biographer, she was an autobiographer, and many things she went into. That is, she made her profession even in publications. So that she herself justifies or gives a statement that she solved the first obstacle of killing the angel. The angel died. But the second, telling the truth about my own experiences as a body, I don't think I solved. I doubt that any woman has solved it yet. The obstacles against her are still immensely powerful, and yet they are very difficult to define. And that is what she in general talks about when she says that there are two specific obstacles, but there are infinite obstacles for women, and it's very difficult to define. Everyone faces a new problem or a new obstacle in their own way. Now, what are the other obstacles? We talked about the angel, we talked about the phantom. Now here, which are the other ghosts that a woman writer has to fight during her that is the career that she chooses? I quote from the text again. Outwardly, what is simple than to write books? Outwardly, what obstacles are there for a woman rather than for a man? Inwardly, the case is very different. She has still many ghosts to fight, many prejudices to overcome. I think before a woman can sit down to write a book without finding a phantom to be slain or rock to be dashed against, and if this is so in literature, the freest of all professions for women, how is it in the new professions which you are now for the first time entering? Now here is a very important question asked by Virginia Woolf to every woman who works. We are not talking about literary creative writers only. She is posing a question to all the women who work, where she talks about two things. Primarily, that the outward obstacles are different and the inward obstacles are different for both men and women. There are many ghosts to fight. For example, she has to come out of lot many situations where people prejudice her being into it. She has to overcome that also. And then when she starts writing, she has killed the angel, she has slain the phantom, slain, that is to kill. She has slain the phantom, but then again, when she is writing, suddenly there is a phase where she dashes herself against something. I haven't read the whole text here, but again we are coming near to the second metaphor that she has used in this talk. The earlier one was angel in the house, and the second, that which I am going to talk about now, is the metaphor of a fisherman, and that is what here this a rock to be dashed against in a way specifies. I can see if I have kept that will continue with what she did with the first, that is killing the angel, how she killed it, how difficult it was. So she starts to take action. When she decided to become a writer full-fledged, she decided to take an action, and deciding it meant not a physical action. I just want to make it clear that action, this is the complexity of English. When we say action, suddenly you get into some sort of a sequence where you have physical fight or anything which is done physically, but here action means to be mentally strong and taking up certain decisions, taking some resolutions and sticking to them, and that is what she did. I have some bits from the text which I am quoting here. I quote, "I turned upon her and caught her by the throat." Now this is the seriousness of the separation of an angel and a writer, where Virginia says when she was interfering off and on in her writings, she just holded her from the neck, and then I did my best to kill her, and she used all her mental power to kill her. Had I not killed her, she would have killed me. Now that is a very important fact again, that if you don't overcome, the thing will overcome you. And this is what she says, that had I not killed her, the angel, she would have killed me, and I would have been in the realm of the angel and must have forgotten my work as a writer. I took up the ink pot and flung it at her. How she did this, how she got rid of this angel, she says that once during writing, she just took up the ink pot and threw it towards the angel. That is what all angel was professing her off and on, and then she died hard. It took a lot of time for her to die, but finally she died. And then there is the birth of the writer, a creative writer who is a woman, and that makes the difference when we talk about a lesson where we are talking about the professions in which women go. Now again, a very important question after reading at least 5 of the paragraphs which are there in the lesson: why she must have taken such a step, or why take such an effort? Why that deliberate preparation and